Hi guys. All right, let me get my book real quick. All right, we'll be all set. All right, so I'm going over our lessons for today for Monday. Today's the I didn't change the. Today is the 11th, and today I'm going to go ahead and make this video because we have a field trip planned for science. So I can go ahead and go over this now. So for math today, we started on the section is 349. So if you open your books to page 349, this starts off, and let me go where we started here. We started with number 7. So with number 7, or actually we started with just, I lied. We started with page 351, problem number 2. We started with just the algorithm, and then we went into a word problem. So this is what it looks like. So we took 225, and you want to put about a finger space in between each of these numbers. So 225 was our total, and we are dividing that by 3. So we're trying to see how many groups of 3 are there in 225. So we made our boxes, separate each of those out, and we're asking ourselves how many times does 3 go into 2? So how many groups, if we have 2, how many groups of 3 can I make? Well, if I only have 2 of something, I can't make any groups of 3. So that's 0. So we put that on top. Then we're going to multiply 0 times 3 is 0. Subtract. 2 minus 0 is 2. I'm going to take this 2 and I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to put it in front of the 2 in the middle box. Then I'm going to ask myself again, how many groups of 3 are there in 22? Well, over here, if I do my groups of 3, that's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. So 22 falls in between here. Well, I can't go to 24, 8 groups, because I don't have 24. I only have 22. So I need to stop here, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 groups. Okay, so the groups goes on top. I can make 7 of them. Then we multiply. 7 times 3 is 21. 22 minus 21 is 1. The 1 that's left over, I'm going to move it up in front of the 5, so now I have 15. Then I start all over again. I ask myself, how many groups of 3 are there in 15? Well, here, 15 is on my list. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. So the 5 goes on top. 5 times 3 is 15. Subtract. 15 minus 15 is 0. And there are no remainders. So 225 divided by 3 equals 75. And the way that I can check myself is I can take 75, multiply it by 3, and it should give me 225. So I'm going to do my box, 70 plus 5 times 3. 7 times 3 is 21 with 1 0. 5 times 3 is 15. 210 plus 15 is my 225, so check. That matches, so I know I divided correctly. Okay, so we started off with just the algorithm. Then we went to a word problem. This one says, on the American frontier, salt was 4 times as expensive as beef. So suppose a family on the frontier buys 112 pounds of beef. How much salt could they purchase with the same amount of money? So here, we know that the salt was 4 times as expensive as the beef. We know that they're buying 112 pounds of beef. And our plan was to divide this out. So we went ahead and set up our box. We found out how many groups of 4 are in 112. We said that there were 28. And then we checked our work, and that multiplied out. And so if we get back to that 112, we know that we're correct. So we have our groups of 4 over here that helped us to be able to solve that. Then we looked at a couple problems in the assignment that everybody had to do. So if you flip to the next page on 353, everybody needs to pick 3 problems from this page. It doesn't matter what you pick, just pick 3 of them. We did number 8 together in one of the groups. So here again, number 8 is right here. So we put our 210. We said 7 does not go into 2. That was 0 groups. 0 times 7 is 0. Subtract. We moved that 2 in front. We said that there are 3 groups of 7 and 21. So 3 times 7 is 21. Subtract. There were none left over. So there's nothing to bring over. Then we said how many times does 7 go into 0? How many groups of 7 are there in 0? There was 0. 0 times 7 is 0 with no remainder. Then on the next page, you needed to pick another 3 problems. So you're picking 3 problems from 353 and then 3 problems from 354. All these are word problems. And we did number 15 together. So 15 says a custom order baseball cap company can make 320 caps in 5 days. If they make the same number of caps each day, how many caps can they make in 1 day? Okay, so here, if you picture this, think about this as this is your total, and the total number that they're making is 320 caps. And every day they're making the same amount, and they're able to make that many in 5 days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if each of these days, I'm going to call each of these days just A, because I don't know the number yet. I can just give it a letter. And I'm going to use all the same letter to show that each one of these boxes is the exact same number. When we know the total, we know how many groups we have, we just don't know the number in each group, we need to divide. So this would be 320 divided by 5. So we looked at that one together. And so then, after that, you can pause if you need that. All right, so then after that, students worked on those, and then they put all their answers into Google Classroom. And in Google Classroom, if you go over to classwork, math responses, week 19 math responses, click on your assignment there. You're going to go down and you're going to enter your answers below. Make sure you look above to see which problems were assigned for the independent work. So here, independent work, this is what we went over together. Independent work is what you had by yourself. So you're picking 3 from the first page, any 3 from the second page. Pages are there. So again, you're not doing all 17, you're only doing 6. So if you do 2, 5, 10, 12, 13, 14, whatever, just put your answers on the 6 that you chose to do. Okay, so we're doing this first column right here. So this should be filled in with 6 problems. All right, those that are joining me that don't have their book, here's the directions down here of how to get to your book. We're in chapter 10 sections. All this week is going to be sections 2 through 5. So you can follow those directions down there on the bottom. Then in reading today, we went over to Seesaw, and we went to this week 19 whole group activities. All right. So we started talking about historical fiction, and we looked at this page that has several different sets of information about historical fiction on it. And we looked at some things that they have in common. So we talked about how historical fiction, it takes place in the past. It is a made-up story. It's fiction, so it's not true. But it can be based on historical events, so things that have happened in the past. Um, they are, telling a fictional story about, maybe an event that happened a long time ago. So the characters are usually realistic. There's parts of like the story we read today. We read this story here called Waiting for Pa, and it talks about how John Deere invented the steel plow in 1837. Well, that's an actual true fact. We looked it up. That is when it was actually invented. And so there's little pieces of realistic things in here, but overall the story is made up. So we're looking at this genre, and we'll be looking at different things throughout the week. And so keeping these things in mind and looking for those kind of let you know what you're reading and what you can expect. So again, we read Waiting for Pa, and we stopped and we talked about some things that made us realize that this came from, or that this is from that genre. So we talked about the dates and, how they call him Pa, and, just some of the situations in the story about how they lived on these plains and nothing's really around. Pa has to travel in his wagon to go to the store to go shopping for their things that they need, or they're going to buy this plow that they're getting and some other things. So just talking about those things kind of let us know that that was in that genre. And then we filled out this page 3. So we filled out some of the characters, the setting, some things that happened in the story, and then those clues about it being historical fiction. And then we clicked draft on that. So push pause if you need that. And then for independent work, students went to here, and week 19 reading independent work, they are doing this story here. It's called The Secret of the Winter Count. And today you're reading chapter 1. So you're reading and recording, and every single page needs recording. So pages 1 through 5, and there should be a recording on each of those. And then tomorrow will be chapter 2, Wednesday will be chapter 3, Thursday will be chapter 4, and then Friday there's some comprehension questions that go from the story. So make sure you're paying attention as you're reading, and make sure you're following the story and that you're understanding and comprehending it well. And then for writing today, we went to Google Classroom back over here, and we looked at this called Writing Adverbs. Excuse me. We opened up the one with the cupcake. Something in my throat. All right. So in this one, adverbs are things that we can add to our writing, and it's really just helping the reader understand more what we are talking about. So an adverb is a word that tells more about a verb, adjective, or another adverb. So it's just like you could say, we mixed the batter. But if you want the reader to know how you mixed it, then you could say, we carefully mixed the batter. So they say when, where, and how. So I will see you. When will I see you? Soon. I will meet you. Where will I meet you? Here. She sang the song. How did she sing the song? She loudly sang the song. So you can leave them out, but when you add them in, it's really giving your reader more information. So adverbs that tell when, they include things like soon, often, never, always. I always get the chocolate cupcake. Adverbs that tell where include up, down, everywhere, there. I looked everywhere for the mixer. So instead of just saying I looked for the mixer, if you say I looked everywhere, then that kind of gives the reader a better understanding of how you were how you or where you were looking. All right, adverbs that end in ly tell how. So slowly, rarely, carefully, quickly. Now, not everything, a lot of things, but not everything that ends in ly are adverbs. So you can't just see that pattern and think all of them are, but quite a few. So, an example, she ate the dessert. How did she eat the dessert? She slowly ate the dessert. All right, so adverbs can be written either before or after the verb. So this verb is walked. So the woman walked down the hall. We're describing how she walked. So you could put it before and say the woman slowly walked, or you could put it after the woman walked slowly. So either one. And then we talked about this one. Good is an adjective. So a good is describing something. So if you say, how was the chocolate cupcake? You could say it was good. If you say, remember that well is an adverb. So use well if it's answering the question how and describes the verb. So Lewis ran well in the race. I think I did well on the test. This new cleaner works very well. So making sure a lot of people say, oh, he ran good. I think I did good on the test. The new cleaner works very good. You're describing what that verb is, and so you need well instead. All right, so we stopped here on 9, so we'll pick that up another day. And then after that, we moved to our writing from week 18. I wanted to look at it before we move on to this week. So some still had it in this Google Classroom. Some had moved it over to Seesaw. So wherever you had it, I had everybody open theirs up. And the prompt was to write about something you've learned and explain why it was important to you. So we partnered up with partners and we went through this checklist of some things that we need to make sure that as we're writing that this checklist is in our mind, because this is what we're required to have. So we need to make sure that we are clearly stating our central idea. So somewhere in your writing you need to make sure, not somewhere, in the beginning, all throughout, it should be all throughout your paper. It should be very evident that whatever it is that you learned. So if you learned piano, everybody who reads your paper needs to be very clear that piano is the thing that you learned. Then you need to organize your writing. Do you have an introduction, a beginning, that beginning, middle, and end? Do you have that introduction that's introducing that central idea? Is your body, this goes with let me make this bigger so you can see it too. All right, I'm right here, the organize your writing. With your developing your detail, developing your ideas in detail. And that part right there is you want to make sure that in that body, in that middle part, your ideas, if you say, learning to play the piano is important because it's something that my grandma and I share, is something fun to do together, then you need to explain more on what you're talking about. You need to go into details. Don't just say, it's important because we have fun together. Like, what does that mean? Like, tell the reader more about how you and your grandma work together to learn piano, or maybe she teaches you, or whatever. Talk more about whatever you're saying. And then the last part, conclusion for the organization. Choosing your words carefully. We want to make sure that we sound like fourth graders or higher. We don't want to sound like a first grader. We don't want to say everything's fun and I learned stuff, and just simple words that if I walked into a kinder or first or second grade class, I'd hear them. That's how their sentences look. So use those details, elaborate, use those things like the adverbs, like we just talked about, to really explain what you're trying to say. And then, of course, correct spelling, capitalization, puncture, grammar, and all your sentences are correct and all the mechanical stuff is there and is good to go. So we partnered up and we read each other our papers and showed what we did. And then we got some things in mind for as we enter into this week, some things that we need to be careful of, that we're making sure that we're on the lookout. So when we do our writing this week, we will not make those same mistakes. And then this. So like I said today, if you go to the agenda, when we come back, so we did reading. Oh, and reading, we read, here it is. Under a Pile, like Mr. Edward. All right, so we read, what did we read? We read starting at page 68. All right, we read chapter 9 and we stopped at 12. So we read 9, 10, and 11. So, and that's in our Edward Tulane book. And our small group was over some of the questions that go with the book. Then if you scroll down for science, so we've got our waste management virtual field trip where we're going to talk about some recycling things with them. So that'll be for science today. So the link is on the Google Classroom. If you go to the stream, it says virtual field trip, join at 11:55. So we've got the Zoom link here. And then, so we'll start that here in about 10 minutes. So make sure you're clicking on that. I'm not going to have my Zoom open, so only click here at that time for science today. There's not going to be any recording, so if you miss it, you miss it. So try to make sure that you join us for that. And then lastly, there's a video here for social studies, and then we're doing week 19 assignment on Google Classroom. All right, so just click your classwork and you'll find that there. All right, I hope you have a great Monday. I hope you had fun in the snow and you got to see some of it yesterday. And thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.